and George Weah has spent 6 years. You know, they are only 6 years, so it's sought the second time of another 6 years. So this is like the people who have spoken in Liberia, Jide.
Yes, the people have spoken, and the election was very close, nail-bitingly close. And when an election is so nail-bitingly close like that, it's difficult to admit defeat. Our elections are not perfect at this stage. Our elections are very divisive. We have talked about the fact that the way the voting pattern showed the division in the country. And when you are faced with that kind of situation, it becomes difficult for you to imagine that you've been defeated, especially as an incumbent. And we've seen African presidents who were defeated, even in elections that were not close, who refused to leave until they were pushed out of office, or they were just left to continue. You saw what the funny man who was in Gambia did. You lost an election. And he didn't want to hand over until ECOWAS, led by President Buhari, forced him out of office. They had to send troops, send air platforms. They used the very noisy Nigerian fighter jet, the Alpha jet, very, very noisy. They used it, flew over his presidential palace a number of times, did some sorties, and he was really terrified. He had to call President Buhari that, Mr. President, I'm ready for talks. I'm ready for talks, sir. Please, sir, I'm ready to talk. At the end of the day, Nigeria arranged a smooth passage for
left
him.
With dollars, left with money.
Yes, Nigeria arranged a presidential jet that enabled him to move his things and leave that country alone. Now, you can imagine the crisis that he was going to plunge the country into. And that's not the first time. You've seen other African leaders like that who would, after losing an election, not admit. We've seen people who will submit to the courts. The courts will give judgment and they will still say, no, I was not defeated. This is Trump-like notion that you cannot be defeated in an election. Donald Trump was defeated. I am a Trump supporter. I supported him. In our arguments, you know, I used to say Trump was my man. But he was defeated in the election. There were some demographics that changed, that made states that used to vote Republican suddenly move towards Arizona, for example. Arizona all along had been voting Republican. But a lot of the people who used to live in New York moved into Arizona because the cost of living in Arizona is not as high as the heavily cosmopolitan New York. They moved in there to start their lives. And they became a part of the voting public there. And in the end, a state that usually voted Republican voted Democratic. So in the end, he still did not agree that he lost an election, despite the fact that he tried to get the courts to say, okay, in this place, it didn't happen. So our people, as Africans, we must learn to admit defeat. When you are defeated and well defeated, even when you are defeated by small margins, it makes sense to admit defeat rather than plunge your country into crisis. So that's the reality that we face as a continent, and I believe that going forward, the man George Weah has shown that he's such a patriot. As a footballer, he represented his country, represented the continent well, even became best in the world, you know. And as a politician, he's done well too. So I'm happy about the fact that he decided to give up the race at the time that he did.
And looking at George Weah knew what was at stake for a country that was just coming out of a bloody civil war. If you didn't concede this, that this country might implode.
Well, it was, it only, I think it showed, his international stature. Of course, before now, he was an international footballer, decorated footballer. So I had expected that he would do things, the right way, having lived in the West for a long time, But the sad thing is that you have African politicians who have lived abroad, lived in the West, seen these democracies, but when they get back home, they become something else. Yes, it's a good example, starting from Abdullah Ade of Somalia in 1967. He was the first African democratically elected leader to concede defeat in an election. Then you went down to people like Banda, Kenneth Kaunda, Jonathan, Abdoulaye Wade of Senegal. So of course there are examples to follow, sterling examples for African leaders to follow. But the other thing is that we need to deal with the issue of violence, snatching of ballots, manipulation of ballot papers, intimidation of voters. These are still challenging issues challenges to African democracy. So we must deal with those issues because, like somebody said, you see, instead of employing thugs to go snatching ballot boxing and all that, why not spend time, money, do good for the people, do a lot of good for the people, to the extent that the people will just support you overwhelmingly, vote you overwhelmingly. These are things these are values. But we find out that people say, oh, politics is about interest. So do we not just in values? Do we throw away time-honored values, time-honored virtues? We must rethink our style of democracy in Africa. There's nothing wrong with democracy. Democracy is good. It's good. It's been in practice for hundreds of years, but, around the world. But, you see, we must learn that public office is about service to the people. Unless the motivation is to go and loot the treasury, go and steal money, go and empty the treasury. Otherwise, if it's about service, I don't see why politicians will be so desperate in Africa to be declared winners at all costs and do whatever it takes, kill so many people. You even saw in the last governorship elections, people were still killed, despite the fact that there wasn't actually any need for it, but some people just still went out, with huge sums of money, with weapons, and still killed people. I think I look forward to the day that these vices will no longer be the case in Nigeria. Yes, Liberia has shown the way, although Goodluck Jonathan showed the way earlier, just like some others before him. But you see, we must make democracy work in Nigeria and in Africa.
After the 2015 election in Nigeria, we seem to have gone back to that state of backwardness that people are hardly concede defeats. You see 3 people claiming to win one particular election, especially this last election.
Yes.
The person that came third went to court with the notion that gave the impression that he won that election. We don't know how to say congratulations. We don't know when to stop. Even after the verdict of the Supreme Court and the highest court of the land ruled and, adjudicated over the matter, still, people still find it difficult to say congratulations like Judge Ware did.
Well, first and foremost, the person who came third in this last election never told the Supreme Court to declare him winner. He never affirmed that he won the election. Go back and look at the averments. He never said, declare me the winner of this election. He never said, I won this election. It's one thing to say to your people those things that they love to hear. It's another thing to go before the court, prove that you are the winner, ask the court to declare you winner. You get the point that I'm making, So I don't know, maybe there was a problem that he didn't want to contend with the other man who came second. But he didn't push before the court that he should be declared winner. But he pushed hard for the person who won the election to be disqualified. That was his main goal. Facts are what they are. People can go back and check. And you ask yourself, what really were you doing in court? You know? APM never went before the court to say he should be declared winner. APM went before the court to say, disqualify this person. So we all have our different reasons. What is our goal? What is your goal in the first place? If your goal is to have someone disqualified, once that person is not disqualified by the court, what is your plan B? We are in a situation in which politicians terribly defeated by huge landslides across the states. They will still go to court, believing that our judiciary has the tendencies to give victory to losers. Because we can't explain. Just look at, even in Lagos here. Look at, in Lagos here.
Yes.
What did the PDP score in the governorship election?
Maybe 60.
It was a very poor performance, similar to the performance of the PDP in Kano. But it still didn't stop them from going to court.
They lost, want to go.
They lost. They still said, okay, we are appealing. They appealed again, and it's possible that they will still want to go to the Supreme Court to waste the time of those judges. Judges who now have to grapple with far more election-related litigation than even the regular cases that are brought before them.
Very busy.
Election litigation is so huge, judges can barely even cope. We've seen situations in which judges made mistakes because they were doing cut and paste. What happened? What is not related in their intro, you go and bring a matter that is not related to what you are treating, because they are too busy. They have so much on their plate. Yes, that is. Now they are saying, okay, appeal court matters about the south, go to Lagos. If it is in the north, go to Abuja. I feel not saying that they are implementing that now. That is also related to the fact that appeal courts, which produces the judges of the tribunals even at state level, as well as the judges that will sit in appeal over what transpires in the state, they are extremely overworked. Extremely overworked, because it's not election litigation alone that they are dealing with. And you see election litigation running into more than 6 months, 7, 8, 9 months. What do you expect them to do? So this is the thing. If you've been defeated, admit to defeat. If you decided to submit to the Supreme Court or to the judiciary, when the judgment doesn't favor you, behave like a statesman. Don't behave irresponsibly. Because, look, judges will not go and be begging you for litigation. When Jonathan refused to go to court
In 2015.
in 2015, did the judges force him to go to court? Did the judges sit over a matter that nobody litigated over? So this is the thing. It is the politicians that they are going before the courts, and they are the same people now saying, "Oh, we don't want. Why are the courts determining election matters?" Are you not the people taking the matters before them? Abi? Are they not the people? If there are, a lot of them are not bad losers, they will easily admit when it is crystal clear, when it is as apparent as daylight that they've been defeated. They will not go to court. We don't have that attitude here. We don't have that attitude here. That's why it's uncommon. And something also happens, even when someone decides that he's not going to court, you see they will pile pressure on him until he changes his mind. The former governor of Ekiti State, your uncle, actually congratulated Fayose. You remember?
Yeah, I remember.
The same person who congratulated him, after a while, he took back the congratulations based on the claim that Fayose used some abracadabra, photochromic, very ridiculous claim, photochromic. You use photochromic to win all local governments. Can you imagine? He took it back. And at the end, he went to court. What was he trying to do? That Fayose was impeached. Therefore, the Supreme Court should affirm that he shouldn't even have been allowed to take part in the election in the first place. He was not impeached because he was illegally impeached. The chief judge of the state was removed forcibly by the assembly. They brought in their own stooge, and the Supreme Court ruled that an illegality was what they did. They have no right to remove a chief judge. Whatever transpired after that is a nullity. So in the face of the law, Fayose was never impeached.
We don't have that spirit of sportsmanship in our own clan.
Well, for me, I believe it is better for people to be allowed to exercise their rights, to go to court, their right to seek redress, rather than resort to violence.
Which everybody did.
Yes.
After the court ruled.
Yes, you see, you cannot stop people from expressing themselves. There's freedom of expression in the Constitution. Yes, you cannot stop people from expressing themselves.
When you submit yourself to court and the courts are...
Yes, but
abide by
does the law...
judgment.
No, did they not abide by the judgment? They did. They only came out to say, okay, we are not satisfied with the judgment. It's not as if they went and pulled the Supreme Court justices by the collar to say, they came out and said, we are not satisfied with the judgment, which, of course, the Constitution allows them.
Article and Peter Obi, two people.
Are they not
claiming?
No, it's not. The issue of claiming, you know, these are politicians. No politician goes into an election because he just wants to spend money and lose. Now, if it doesn't go his way or her way,
then the Supreme Court is useless.
No, nobody can call the Supreme Court useless.
No, somebody even on TV said so.
Atiku didn't call the Supreme Court useless. APM didn't, Peter Obi didn't.
Those press conferences suggested that...
No, we cannot impute... We cannot
go back and read what...
I read everything, but we cannot impute... If they didn't use the word useless, we cannot impute it. It would be unfair to impute it.
No, some said describe the Supreme Court as useless.
Well, these are commentators in every.
Maybe I told you
in every society. Old man, you know, in every society,
not respecting his age, who came to the TV station to call the Supreme Court useless.
Yes,
the same Supreme Court that had rescued him in the past.
In every society, there you have people on the fringes, on the extremes. It's everywhere. It's all over the world. But the point is this: we must promote healthy public discourse. And then we can talk to people who have extreme views that, please, such things will not help the society. But if you expect that people will not express extreme views, then I think we're asking for
eventually, Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar did not congratulate Bola Tinubu.
Well, it is within their rights to decide to congratulate him or not. But does that stop
it doesn't need their
no.
congratulation to function as president. It doesn't need it. For some people, they are more concerned about galvanizing their base. And they believe that if they do that, it's political suicide. If you ask me,
who did Buhari congratulate?
Buhari too was a bad loser. So Buhari must not be used as a standard.
Well,
Buhari lost election. On all of those elections, he never won a single state in the whole of the South. He never even won wards, a ward in the South, because he didn't have people from the South to work with him. And our constitution is so put together in a way that you cannot be a sectional leader and be president of our country. So he kept losing all of it. He will get his 12 million from the north, but he still won't stop Jonathan from defeating him by an audacious landslide. Yeah. So, but he will not congratulate because he's been told that he won the election. Some people told him that he won the election. You see, self-deceit is something that the average Nigerian is good at. You know in your heart of heart that you couldn't have won. You had no presence in southern Nigeria. But by the time he got the Bola Tinubus of this world and others to work with him, the marriage between the far north and the southwest enabled him to win. They were sewing dresses for him at that time. They were even giving him Isiagu and all that he was wearing, so that people would see him as marketable in the south. In the end, he was able to win. The mistakes that he made back then were corrected. But if he wants to be honest as a statesman, he must admit that on those 3 occasions, he didn't even come close to winning.
All right. That children are championing the cause against debased pacts shows how the society has sunk and wallowed in vices. Students in Plateau State took to the street in Jos, the state capital, to protest against the proposed treaty signing on legalization of lesbianism, gay marriage, bisexual and transgender LGBT in Nigeria. The protesting students said the treaty is an abomination and unacceptable to the two major religions in the country. According to them, the treaty could ruin their future if endorsed, urging the federal government not to sign it. Let's share the story by TVC News, Funam Joshua Burio.
These are students from a few primary and secondary schools in Jos, the Plateau State capital. They are out in their numbers in protest against an alleged attempt to inculcate LGBTQ ideals in the Nigerian education curriculum. The students told the government not to succumb to the European Union's intimidation and sign the lesbianism, gay marriage, bisexual and transgender agreement.
I stand today as an African female student to say that the agreements between the European Union and the African Caribbean Pacific group of states is the highest level of wickedness. This is destruction to our sexuality and our future. This is the highest level of wickedness that they can do to us. Our leaders are only trying to sell us out. I am a girl. God created me to be a girl, not to be a boy. He already knew that I was going to be a girl right from creation. So there's nobody that can come and tell me that I am trapped in the wrong body. This is wickedness. It is very wicked. It is not normal. This is bringing confused ideas to confuse children, to confuse we at our own age. This is not good at all. It is very, very bad. We say no to LGBTQ and we say no to their agreements.
The LGBTQ society are a group of confused people. They do not have the knowledge that we in Africa have, and then they have come with their false, fake ideologies to try to convince us to change our way of life and to derail us from where we have been moving. These guys don't understand what we do here. They don't know our morals, they don't know our standards, they don't know the godly principles that we have grown up with, and then they come to us, enforce laws on us and expect us to accept it. Who are we? This is a democratic system, and then the will of the people, the interest of the people is put first.
I am an African female. I can't just go and just change myself like that. I was created. God knew me before I was born. I cannot just go and just say I'm a boy. Am I okay?
A coalition of civil society organizations on their part wants the federal government to stay far from the partnership agreement. The group, led by an educationist, Ekiti Etang, urged countries' parliaments and legislatures to avoid ratifying the deceptive treaty.
The agreement, the European nation and the ACP, African, Caribbean and Pacific nations, and because there's a subtlety in that agreement that introduces LGBT ideology. And I want to know that that is war against a nation. It's war against our family. It's war against the children's destiny. And schools should rise up. Parents should rise up. Well-meaning Nigerians, rise up. We have suffered enough. Should we add this cost? This is a cost on us. We are suffering. Should we go and add something like this to confuse our children? We are strong with drugs, we are strong with other things. We're going to add this one?
In the aftermath of the agreement, the Nigerian government issued a press release making it public that they were not present at the Samoa Agreement on November 15. The agreement covers 6 key priorities: human rights, democracy and governance, peace and security, human and social development, and climate change. Parents also share their views on this controversial issue, which seems to have also divided opinions.
As a parent, I can't imagine my children, my 2-year-old daughter, being taught how to have sex. You know, it's sick, it's crazy. They want to destroy the society, they want to destroy the moral fabric of our society, and we say no to it. We don't accept it and we don't want it. God has given us wisdom on how to raise our children as parents, and so I don't need anybody coming to tell me how to raise my own children.
If we are to accept this as a nation and include it in our academic curriculum, and then teachers will start teaching our children to embrace different sexual orientation. If you don't feel like you're a girl, you can turn yourself to a boy. If you don't feel attracted to girls as a girl, if you don't feel attracted to boys as a girl, you can relate with girls. I mean, it doesn't make sense, and I don't know what the society will be turning into.
This system, they believe, is alien
to the African culture. From Joshua, TVC News, Jos.
Exactly this kind of procession I saw in South Africa, negative. People coming out to declare that I'm bi, I'm bi. You know, I saw it's that footage. So Nigeria, South Africa, our students coming out and say, "This is who we are."
I mean, it makes sense to reject this thing. It's alien to our culture. We were not brought up to believe that, oh, God did not know what he was doing. And these individuals, the ridiculous thing is that they know that that relationship cannot cause them to procreate. They cannot raise, they cannot give birth to children of their own. They go and adopt children and then poison the minds of those children so that they too can be thinking like them. I mean, people, Nigerians must reject this sort of thing. It shouldn't happen. I pray it doesn't happen in my generation, because God, in creating man and woman, knew what he was doing. So, and you cannot just suddenly declare that, okay, I am this, I am a woman, when you are not carrying the genitals of a woman. No, it's beyond that. So I'm so impressed by these young children. Look at the excellent English that they are speaking. You know that they are products of good home and etiquettical breeding, the kind of English that I saw them speak. So I'm happy, and it's a good thing that Nigeria said it did not take part in that meeting. They should not even attempt it.
Omega, but what the most important part now is that we have a kind of surge in the number of people that are into homosexualism and lesbianism in this country.
Yeah, you know, I said
they're practicing it.
I said earlier that you cannot wish away, you know, the fact that you have people with extreme views, extreme tendencies, you know. So that these things are happening, you know, yes, you know, erosion of values and, you know, the encroachment, you know, by foreign influences. So, you know, people want to just try to adapt to foreign influences. But to me, it's wrong, because, you see, the basic thing is that the idea that these things can be projected to to nations in the southern hemisphere because they are largely poor. That to me is even really very offensive, because I know all these things have been on even since when Nigeria was under military rule. You know, these ACP, EU ACP agreements, the way they are couched is such that, you see, it's even an affront on the constitutions of those countries. So it's as if maybe the Nigerian constitution doesn't even exist. And to the extent that foreigners can come and try to impose their own will on Nigerians, yes, even in defiance of our constitution, should not even be accepted in the first place. Because Nigeria's sovereignty rests on the constitution. It's the constitution that validates our existence as a sovereign nation. So if anybody suggests anything that can tamper with the sovereignty of Nigeria, who says that in the next 10 years they will not cook up something else to even deny the existence of Nigeria? And then the other thing is that they dangle aid at certain nations that they believe are largely poor. But let me tell you, part of this aid is money stolen from these countries. Stolen from these countries by politicians. Money stolen from these countries by their leaders. And then you use the money, you invest the money in your economies, and then you just take a bit of it and send to these countries. You say you are sending aid. I think we need to begin to rethink a lot of these things, because these thirst for aid, do we really need aid? Can't we increase our capacity in these areas that these people pretend that they are giving us aid? We can.
All right, moving on now. When justice is well served in a matter, it's not just a form of relief for the victim, but also a deterrence against further abuse. Justice Nathaniel Ayo Emmanuel of the Federal High Court sitting in Oshogbo, Osun State, has sentenced 5 men tried for cyber stalking and defrauding the former Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Timothy Owoye, of 38 billion naira. The convicted fellows had in 2018 accused Owoye of coming to their community to perform a ritual in a viral 13-second nude video. TVC News' Rafiu Ahmed has the story.
In 2018, a nude video of former Speaker of the Osun State House of Assembly, Timothy Owoye, went viral on social media. The former Speaker was said to have been defrauded of 38 million naira by syndicates who were hiding under the pretense of carrying out spiritual cleansing for him. But security operatives swung into action and arrested those behind the incident, namely Kazim Agbabiaka, Femi Oyebode, Babatunde Oluajo, Adebiyi Oseni, Oyebanji Oyeniyi, and Aziz Ismail. They were brought to court on 5 counts charges bordering on conspiracy, obtaining under false pretense, cybercrime, among others, and were sentenced to 5 years imprisonment, except Aziz Ismail, who was discharged and acquitted.
We should be very cautious of what we post on the internet, and that the law is always there to regulate our conduct and our doings, so that whoever have chosen not to live within the ambit of the law, then definitely we have to face the consequence of the law. And I want to seize this opportunity too, that our people, whether you are a VIP, whether you are an ordinary person, there's different means, just like the court has found out, that the issue of advance free fraud could come in different ways. It could be committed by way of contract. It's the intention that really matters, because this matter started like a form of contract, but at the end of the day, it ended up, their main intention is to defraud the victim.
Counsel to the defendants declined to speak on their next line of action after the judgment. But the former Speaker is grateful to his family, political associates, and most especially the judiciary for revealing the truth.
I want to tell the entire world that God has vindicated me, and at the same time, I did not bat with any blood. I did not bat with any blood, and I believe that with this judgment now, for those who are still a doubting Thomases, we now believe that the court has exonerated me from that allegation that I was battling with blood inside the market. The story was not true, and this has shown with the pronouncement of the Court of Law of competent jurisdictions, and anybody that has the nature of duping or taking money under false pretext from people this one will serve as a deterrent to all of them.
Not long after the judgment was delivered, officials of the Nigeria Correctional Facility in Ile-Ife arrived at the premises of the court to convey the convicts. Rafiu Hamid, TVC News, Osogbo.
Can you shed more light on this? This guy is trying to extort the former Speaker of Osun State House of Assembly.
People like to exploit unfortunate situations. According to the story, sometime in 2018, the former Speaker was approached by people who said they wanted to pray for him to enable him succeed politically and all that. Unfortunately, he didn't know that they had other ideas, and they prayed for him, but he was being recorded without his knowledge. And once they had him recorded, he was in the nude, and they were praying for him in the bush. Then they came up with stories that he bathed with blood and all that. Even the video did not show the man bathing with any blood. He just carried the calabash and the rituals, happened. A very short video at the time, but as short as it was, those guys were able to use it. They damaged him politically, claiming that he bathed human blood and all that. And they were using the video to continue
to harass him.
Yes, for money. And in the end, they were picked up, which is the right thing. There are so many people out there stalking people on social media, threatening that they are going to, that they have nudes of people they are going to release. Nobody wants to see that happen. So they use that simply to make money. There was even a Yoruba actress who said that she had an infection in a private part and they needed to take picture. I think when she discussed with the physician, they then said, okay, snap it, let me see what it looks like. The next thing, they started threatening her that we have your nude, we have seen your nude, if you don't bring money, it's until we make examples of the criminals on social media, this sort of thing will not stop. And I feel for the speaker, but at least now justice has been done.
Quickly.
Yeah, I think justice has been served, yeah. But politicians should also avoid such things, going to get ritual baths and all that. Sell yourself to the people, sell your program. If they want you, they'll vote for you. If they don't want you, they won't.
Yeah.
Simple.
All right. Since no sin must go unpunished, then the stakes are higher for the killing of a police officer. As such, the police are close to arresting the notorious cult leader David Okpolu, as also known as Tubaba, who spearheaded the brutal killing of the popular crime-fighting divisional police officer, DPO, of the Ahoda East local government area of Rivers State, Bako Agbanzim. Progress in search was reportedly made at the weekend following the capture of his second-in-command by the police in Bayelsa State. Acting on intelligence, the operatives arrested the 43-year-old Oyekachuku at his hideout in Yenogwa, the state capital. Jide, remember this DPO?
Yes. Cultism is a very big problem in Rivers State. In fact, most of the South, Akwa Ibom is their biggest problem. And in Rivers State, there are so many non-state actors who are out there behaving like a government on their own. And they ambushed this police officer and beheaded him and posted the gory picture on social media. So whatever it takes, I like the fact that Governor Fubara has placed a big bounty on his head. Perhaps this will enable or encourage people to provide the police with information that can lead to the arrest of Tubaba. They picked up some of his boys and they succeeded in picking his deputy. So it looks like they are closing in on him. We've had this kind of thing. Remember the New Year Eve massacre in Rivers State, where the guy just opened fire on churchgoers and slaughtered so many of them. Governor Wike was so angry, and in the end, the Nigerian army got him gunned down. Tubaba can run, he cannot hide. I know that his days are numbered, and our friend Tunji Disu, this is baptism of fire for him. This is his first big assignment. He has already told his officers that, look, whatever it takes, they must arrest this guy. Disu was head of SAS. Was commander of SAS in that state before, so he understands the terrain and is professional enough to get the job done. So I'm eagerly waiting for the good news of the arrest of Tubaba. No one should humiliate law enforcement agents the way they did to that DPO. Had him killed in an ambush and then proceeded to slaughter him and paraded his head on video. And it's terrible. It's really terrible.
In some other crimes, if you kill a policeman, you are in for it.
No, of course.
They would not rest till they get you.
Well, it's the same thing in Nigeria. It's the same thing here. It's the same thing all over the world. You know, it's sad the way I keep saying this thing, it's sad the way the state allows non-state actors to contest the territory of Nigeria confidently with it. I mean, the state should have a monopoly of violence. That's what the law accords to the state. But be that as it may, I think the person believed to be his second in command has been arrested. So definitely getting the main suspect should not be difficult. I believe within the next few days that the police will get him arrested. And I strongly believe they'll get him alive. You see, this issue of cultism is something that needs to be dealt with a very strong hand. You know, because these things move in steps to terrorism, and then the citizens are held hostage. So the government should also help, and politicians should also stop using these fellows as thugs, you know, because when there's no work for them to do during election season, they go into all these things, terrorizing people.
After election?
Yes, after election, killing people, you know, and generally holding the citizens hostage. So the state must show who owns the state, not non-state actors. So I think I commend the police for how far they've gone, and I think they should go further. Because just going about killing people, no, it's unacceptable.
You know, we should worry the number of policemen we lose in line of duty.
Yes, because we are not able to replace them as much as we are losing them. Every year, policemen retire. Some quit the job. Some are gunned down by criminals, you know. So we've not been up to speed with recruitment into the police. There was this needless argument over who should be in charge of recruitment between the Police Service Commission and the IG, you know. And the police are saying, look, we are the ones who will train them. So it should be our responsibility to recruit. What is there to even be quarreling about? If the goal is not, oh, let's bring in our own people. Let's use the opportunity to bring in our own people. It should be the people who are qualified that should get into the police. Not never-do-wells, not people who cannot find any other job to do. Yes, these are difficult times. To find job is such a difficult thing in our country today. But the job of the policeman is not an all-comers affair. It's not a job for every never-do-well or lay about on our streets.
Or employment seekers.
Yeah, no, just not. It's not. It should be. In fact, you cannot succeed as a policeman if you didn't have passion for the job. It's just like journalism that has been taken over by charlatans now, masquerading as journalists, wearing ties, cheap ties. It doesn't make that doesn't make you a journalist. That you can speak on TV does not make you a journalist. What have you contributed to the body of journalistic knowledge? Nothing. Beyond sneering at people. That's not journalism. Which story have you written that you can point to? You know, that you've reported, this is a journalistic breakthrough that I've done. The so-called great journalists, they can't point at journalistic breakthroughs that they've made. Beyond just talking on TV and spewing absolute nonsense. That's not journalism. So the police should not be reduced to an all-comers affair. We have to do something about the quality of people coming into the police. Some of the people coming into the police are worse than armed robbers. We can't have a situation. You know, birds of passage coming into journalism is killing journalism in our country. The quality of training is almost non-existent. Everybody now armed with a phone believes that he's a journalist. Come on. And we have people, because, we talk about the era of citizen journalism. So are we saying that our profession is now borderless, that anybody can qualify to be called a journalist? I mean, it makes no sense. So I want to see these cultists defeated, because they are not bigger than the state, they are not stronger than the state. They can't be wasting people the way they are doing. So Tunji Disu has a job to do in that place. This one that they arrested first came to Ogun State. He didn't know that he was being watched. You know, came to Ogun State to hide, then went back to Bayelsa, and he was arrested. The police, all the police units should be ready to do their job of catching this guy. He has to be put in his place.
All right. Oftentimes, President Bola Tinubu has demonstrated that he's a listening leader. In another demonstration of this, President Tinubu has cancelled the 40% automatic deduction from the internally generated revenues, IGR, of federal universities. He said the policy is inappropriate at this period. Meanwhile, this comes after Babajide Kolade Otitoju and other guests insist that this program will not shy away from telling the truth to the president. Let's share that with you.
Education, not many of our people can afford to send their children to tertiary institutions. We should make it a lot easier for our people to access education at that level. It should not be a means by which government will make additional money or IGR. That makes no sense. Not at this level, because the pay will be too much for the people to bear. So that is the thing. We have to speak for our people. That's why I'm here. If it gets to a point that I cannot speak for the people anymore, then I don't have to be here.
Let the state government be up and doing. The state government are not doing enough. Let them be up and doing.
They're not doing enough.
%40 deduction from the IGR.
Which IGR? when I read that thing, I was
Some of these universities, they go into ventures.
Yeah, they go into ventures.
Sell
Have
pure
you,
water,
have you audited their books to know? You see, IGR, we should not just throw words around. Internally generated revenue. How much of their overhead costs have they met? Yes, they collect subventions from government. That's a fact. But, you know, one of the reasons why government set up TED Fund was because, you know, it arose from an ASU strike. Because ASU was saying there should be certain kinds of interventions to help the, you know, tertiary institutions, you know, meet some of this. If you go to many of these universities, even College of Education, Polytechnics, you find some of the most beautiful buildings on their campuses. Actually, TED Fund. So if they had such plenty money from IGR, I believe we will see it. Yes, we might say, okay, there's corruption still in another, but you see, it won't be to the extent that even libraries, for instance, that TED Fund would have to provide these things for tertiary institutions. So the thing is this, it's a very simple thing. If you say universities should bring 40% of IGR, now you look at things like ID card, look at all those basic things. It means all they will have to do is to increase the fees, increase the charges. Yes. And now, is it children whose parents are already traumatized by daily living that you're expecting to still pay the money that will produce the 40%? You see, even if you look at some of the big universities, what actually helps them is endowments. It's not even any IGR or subvention or fees. Endowments. Because you find alumni also invest money to assist these schools. And universities are actually not profit-making ventures.
No, they are not.
They are not even ventures. Because a university is an ivory tower for learning and the shaping of character. But when you now turn universities into business centers, then what you are doing is that you are going to reduce the standard of education, the standard of teaching, the standard of learning, because the vice chancellor will no longer be supervising the lecturers and all that. He will be more interested in looking at the balance sheet, at the cash book. He He will be more interested, in holding meetings with the bossa and all those officials in the financial sector. That will just further devalue our education. That thing should not be heard of at all.
I don't know about OSU. I don't know about some other schools outside Lagos, but for University of Lagos, I know that they've been into this Unilag venture, and for years, if you check out their MBA executive, very expensive, Unilag bread, Unilag pure water, things within the school.
Don't go too far. In spite of that, Unilag can pay its bills.
Yes.
I'm telling you, the VC is probably watching me now. Let them come out. In spite of the fact that it has some of the best alumni in our country, Unilag can pay its bills. The electricity bill alone, let the VC talk about these things, because we see this, we think that they are making a lot of money. They are not. That was why Unilag wanted to increase fees the other day. These are fees that they've been paying for decades, but they were resisted. At the end of the day, they had to calm down. They had to calm down. It's tough to run a university. The other day, the electricity service providers faced ABU because the bill was already in excess of 1 billion naira.
Wow.
Yes.
And ABU has student population.
You see, from how much do students pay? We can't commercialize education. You heard what I said. This was on the 14th. People say, they don't speak the truth again on journalist Hangout since Tinubu became president.
No, that's not true. That's not correct.
But you watched it.
Yes.
Some of them don't watch the program. All they do is just spread rumors. Jide has stopped saying the truth since President Tinubu took over. And I said, look, if I stop saying the truth, God knows what to do about me. It's just not going to happen. There's no president that is above criticism. No one. And it's our duty to tell the president this is wrong. We've been doing it since the first day that he got into office, and you see, as a listening president, he will go back and change his mind. When he wanted to pay 8K to households, did we not come here? 3 different programs we did to tell the president that, look, this is wrong. You see, as a president over there, Asake sings about being lonely at the top. Sometimes you can't even say exactly what the people want. And you are surrounded by all kinds of people. Some of them sycophants, some even fifth columnists. If you ask President Buhari today, when Awolowo's house library was raided and they turned everything upside down, after Buhari left office and we interviewed him, he said he did not know. He never sanctioned the raid. As president, one of the most prominent Nigerians, they were going to raid his house, his library. Buhari didn't know. So the people came up with this idea. The moment they started banding it around, we had to come here and say, Mr. President, this is not a good idea. And he listened. That's the job of the journalists.
Absolutely.
We can't be in a situation in which we say, oh, for this president, we will not criticize him. It's not going to happen. Let people stop deceiving themselves that, oh, journalists hang out, they will not say the truth again. Why? Are you the one who put us here? Did we have an arrangement with you that, saying the truth will only be based on certain conditions? No. There is no condition that should stop a journalist with conscience from speaking the truth. It has nothing to do with who is the president. And this is the truth. This is the message. If today you go to the market, things are extremely expensive because of some policies of government, are we not all going to suffer together?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Don't say you are from Labour.
Oh, you are from this. Who even know? Or is it every time you want to go to the market, you first inform the people in government? I mean, these are ridiculous things that people say, they've started the truth. How many times do you watch them? Even when we say these things, they may not know because they are not watching, they are rumor mongers. It's a good thing. It's on record. And we told the president, don't do this. And he himself said, this is not the time. Who does not know that this is not even the time for such a thing? Universities that are grappling, they can't even pay their bills. A lot of the federal universities that were set up, just as he said, when you enter their premises, is only TED fund buildings that you see. Even state universities are taking TED fund, relying heavily on TED fund. Enter any of those universities. It's the same TED fund that will also still provide money for research, for some university lecturers to travel abroad, although some of them go and don't come back. You know, all these things. What if we didn't have TED fund? A lot of those universities can't even pay the salaries of workers. Abia State, they were owing doctors. They were owing doctors. If we implement this kind of thing, then all universities not going to be under a pazu. They were owing doctors. When you owe, the doctor is the last person that you should owe. Because you are putting people's lives at risk. A man whose mind is not settled will be operating on people. They will forget their social material in people's bellies. It has happened before. Because you ask yourself, what was a doctor thinking when you even left bandages inside a person that you operated upon? So we have to be careful.
Because should those universities be encouraged to make more money?
You see, like they said, you cannot commercialize education. You cannot commercialize learning. Now, look at, there's this report now that Nigerians are now opting for Canadian universities, over UK. That UK is losing more Nigerians to Canada. Because the conditions are more favorable. UK universities started because they saw a large number of Nigerian students trooping to UK. They began to increase school. No, you don't do that. Come on. You're not the only country in the world
stopped you
offering...
from bringing your family.
Oh, okay, what is that? So do you want to break marriages? Do you want to break homes because somebody wants to go and get a degree?
Masters.
Get a master's or something. So, and you know the way the Nigerian society is. We value family bonding a lot. So the point is this. You see, there are certain people, who have really done so much for universities in this country. I think they should be encouraged to do more. Philanthropy, endowments, grants, foundations, families, wealthy families in different areas can also be encouraged to set up foundations and fund certain, faculties, programs in our tertiary institutions. But you see, consider the ordinary man. The ordinary man also deserves the right. Education is a right. It's not a privilege. The ordinary man deserves the right to send his children to school. So if you now raise fees, do you even know that there are people that you think they are well off? I've heard them complaining about the increase in fees. That how will my children cope?
A lot of the big people in our country today would not have gone to school if not for free education.
Free education.
That Awolowo and co.
Yes.
My father went to University of Ibadan, and when told us those stories of, in the 60s, how things were then, I just marvel. I've just two students in a room. They had all those things, but what do you find today? What do you find today? The schools, the hostels are overcrowded, and because people think
infrastructures are decaying.
Yes. What is the quality of learning? Are the lecturers really teaching the students? Do they have time? Lecturers are here and they move to other private universities. They move here and there
because they must make ends meet. In spite of that, do you know the rate at which lecturers are leaving Unilag and other places?
Leaving the country.
Leaving the country. We have to even address the funding of universities if we want them to continue to be centers of excellence. You have to address the matter of funding, sufficiently. And we cannot afford to commercialize education. It's not everybody. Children of the poor deserve to go to public universities. They deserve to go to public universities. And when they go to public universities, who knows? that big invention that we are clamoring for, it could well come from the son of a prime one tapper.
Yes.
That is the thing.
Yes, yes. Even the 2% that companies, I think education tax, if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, the 2% education, I think it's 2% education tax. But many companies are even finding it hard right now to meet their obligations, to pay their workers, to buy inputs, to buy raw materials. So so you now have more companies declaring loss. If there are more companies declaring losses, how will they be able to fund education? So the government should also think of incentives for companies, more incentives for companies, so that they can, at the end of the financial year, they can continue to contribute to education tax, because we need it. It's very important, but we should not commercialize education for any reason.
Yeah. All right, we'll take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We'll be right back.
There is always more to a story than the screaming headline. The part of a story that is not told casts a shadow. It's like the part of an object that is not reached by light. On TVC News, I'm able to explore the many angles there are to a story, talking to stakeholders, asking the difficult questions, and digging for facts. I believe the viewers are able to make a better decision if they're well informed and understand not just a part, but the complete story. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Voted as the best TV station of the year. TVC News breaks into the core of every event as they happen, following all nationwide big and impactful stories. Without the news from every perspective, covering every human angle. I am Veronica, bringing you the news you would want to watch.
Thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining us, this is our Journalist Hangout on Sunday. Those who have perpetrated terror against the Nigerian states must not be allowed to evade justice. The federal government has said that it will, in the next 2 weeks, resume prosecution of some alleged terrorists. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, noted that government is finalizing efforts to ensure a smooth and successful prosecution, such as adopting virtual trials to prevent delay. Julie, this should have happened under the administration of Muhammadu Buhari, when the Attorney General actually told us that 400 Nigerians will be prosecuted, and that never saw the light of the day.
I don't know what he was thinking, but by not prosecuting terrorists, even after a country helped us,
really?
They've done this paid work for you. Expose those who are funding Boko Haram, using illicit funding. You should just have put them on trial. Boko Haram men were put on trial in Chad. I know when they were put on trial in Chad. And the moment they were sentenced to death, they were executed. It was public knowledge.
Yes.
This is where they originated from. In our own country, where the bulk of Boko Haram's killing campaign had been executed, we are wasting time about prosecuting people. A lot of those who had been arrested in the Southeast, for example, killing innocent people and calling themselves IPOB or whatever name, how many of them have we put on trial? How do you put an end to crime when people cannot see clearly that if you commit crime, you will be punished? We have to let people realize that, look, you are not going to get away. You will be dealt with if you commit crime. So I believe that we just have to change our ways. We just have to put these guys on trial, deal decisively with them, so that others can learn. Just yesterday, the convoy of the governor of Yobe State was attacked.
Yes.
he lost one of his trusted security aides. And about 6 of them were injured along the Maiduguri-Damaturu Expressway. I just returned from the Damaturu. I prefer to be on the road for 4-5 hours rather than use a road that is just about 1 hour, 25 minutes. Because you cannot, they will tell you, no, it's no longer happening. It's a lie, Ayo. Those boys, when they are going to strike, you will not notice. You won't know. Sometimes they even leave you with the impression that, all is well. Suddenly, they will strike, and we can't do anything about it.
What?
No, so, but we have to put them on trial. We will be on this Attorney General's case. Those 400 people that Malami spoke to us about, we need to even know what's going on about that matter. Malami must show, the Attorney General must not behave the way the former Attorney General behaved. You are showing, what's it called, urgency about paying some money to some people that governors claim they didn't do the job. But you cannot put enemies of the state on trial. I mean, I can't explain that.
You know, these people just identifying their sponsors for a long time. We'll be looking for their sponsors. Now that they've given us a kind of clue, and we are foot dragging.
Are their sponsors hidden? You know, the nature of terrorist financing is such that even ordinary people on the street who just buy things here and there might not even know that they are unwittingly sponsoring terrorism. You know, there was an investigation about the funding of Al-Shabaab. It was found out that, you know, even truck drivers, some of these tolls, the tolls they are taking from truck drivers, were actually being used to fund Al-Shabaab. So, you see, terrorist financing is not just about those big names who give money to them. There are ways, through extortion, levies, the levy farmers and all of that, even communities, people want to organize events, they have to pay, you know, protection money and all of that. These are the things that go a long way, you know, in funding terrorism. But it's because the people are helpless, so they have to pay such monies. So definitely, this it is good that the government is talking of prosecuting them, but it should not be a media show, just maybe to gain acceptance, and then after some time, you start foot dragging on it. And then again, I think we should be careful about getting some of these dangerous elements into the prisons, so that we don't have the same kind of problem that Egypt had with the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. If you remember that, you know, at a time, there were many of them in prison, and then, you know, these things started also radicalizing fellow prisoners.
So where do we put them?
So government can be creative about it. It's not just about jailing them, but using certain kinds of sentences to de-radicalize those who are not deeply involved in it, but those who are really seriously involved in it. Government should find a way to make sure that even when they are jailed, they cannot go there and cause worse problems in prison. So it's a good thing.
Solitary confinement for very hardened.
Yeah, don't mix them. You know? Don't mix them with the ordinary.
Even in other lands, the very dangerous terrorists, they are given isolated, a separate. Yes, so that some of them can kill. They can kill prison warden. Yes, they can kill even some of the inmates. So, but in our own case, we've arrested Boko Haram fighters even at the scene of crime. But we've not seen anybody since the jailing of this boy, this Christmas Day boy.
Yes.
Abiru.
Yes. Abdul Mutalab.
Abiru Sokoto. Since his jailing, I've not heard of any Boko Haram fighter that anybody has jailed.
Moving on now. The wave generated by the sacking of some governors by the courts is yet to die down. The national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, APC, Abdullahi Ganduje, has described the judgment of the Court of Appeal that upheld Nasiru Gawuna as the winner of the 2023 governorship election in Kano State as a victory for democracy. Ganduje said it is a reflection of what transpired in the state during the election. The Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja also declared the governorship election of 18th of March in Zamfara State inconclusive. Justice Waka, who read the lead judgment, ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to conduct a fresh election in 3 local government areas, Maradun, Beni Magaji, and Bukuyum. Jide, let's first of all start with Kano. The tribunal overturned the election of the governor, and getting to the Court of Appeal too, the same thing happened, and this might be the fate at the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
well,
it all depends on the way those judges will look at it. The issue of, there are 2 issues here. The issue of membership of the political party. Judgments had been given in the past that those are party affairs. Remember, even the Presidential Election Petitions Court ruled that Peter Obi could not be disqualified, on account of not being a member of the party. A lot of them, the point I'm making, a lot of the Labour Party people, including those who won the elections, were originally not in Labour Party. They joined the party very late. Yeah. But in Obi versus INEC, the Presidential Elections Court dismissed that case that was brought before it. So they could, the opposition, the rival party could not feast on the fact that Obi was not a member of the party at that time. So when you look at this matter, the Supreme Court had already ruled in something on a matter that was similar to that. That is the argument that Peter Obi was not originally in Labour Party and all that. So, and it was also seen as a pre-election matter. So whether the Supreme Court would deem this as a pre-election matter, only time could tell. If the Supreme Court deems it an election matter, then on that score, the application of the APC will not succeed, because it could then mean that, okay, the Supreme Court was not going to overrule itself. It had already decided on this kind of matter before. Even the Lagos candidate of the APC, of the Labour Party, if you remember, his membership was also challenged, similarly challenged. Yes. So that is one. The other matter is the matter of about 160,000 ballots not stamped. In law, any document not signed is generally deemed a nullity. That is the one that I find very strong. Yes. I'm curious as to how the Supreme Court will rule on this particular matter, because the law looks at a document not signed as a worthless piece of paper. And 160,000 votes is huge. So how did it happen?
To make the difference.
How did it happen? Were those ballots the result of massive thumb printing, which usually happens in elections? Some people will sit somewhere and just be doing massive thumb printing. Or were they simply oblivious? The NNPP now, were they simply oblivious of the danger in not having ballots stamped? Because amidst the euphoria of having won the election, because no one can deny that the NPP won the election in that state. They even dominated other elections, House of Assembly, the rest of them. But how do you explain 160,000 ballots from the stronghold of the NNPP not stamped. That is the aspect, the issue of, and then our parties have to be serious. It is irresponsible for you to know that this is what the law says. Section 177, 8 of the 1999 Constitution. You have to be a member of the party. And it was in July, I think July 6, according to the tribunal, that they took the register before INEC. What were they waiting for? You waited until the election has ended. So if the Supreme Court deems this matter fatal to his case, then I pity the governor. I was in Kano, and Kano was very calm on Friday. That was not what I expected. Although some parents went and quickly withdrew their children because they didn't know what would happen. But Kano was
were waiting for the Supreme Court.
Perhaps, but some are saying that, oh, it's no longer popular because of the demolitions, because the demolitions also affected poor people. And some thugs used the opportunity of the demolition to loot people's shops. Many of those victims have not forgiven the government of the day. So perhaps that was why. And then you have to praise the Commissioner of Police, who already struck a deal with both parties that no matter the outcome, there should be no jubilation. So it's a dicey matter. The courts will decide. But
Omega, we've seen this before. So we won't preempt the Supreme Court. I remember, is it 2015? Yusuf Wiki and Dakuku Peter side.
Yes.
As the
I wanted to
tribunal level,
yes.
Dakuku won. At the Court of Appeal, Dakuku won. But when it got to the Supreme Court, that is when we had that, look, this card reader was not legislated upon.
Yes.
You see,
does
not have any
in the Zamfara case, I want to point out, this thing...
No, we're still in
Kano.
In Kano now.
Okay, yes. On the Kano case, the fact that just one point is invalidating all the work that the NNPP put into winning the elections must be critically looked into by the Supreme Court, because there are decided cases on eligibility, for nomination by parties, and I think that just merely using that to invalidate the entire election, the Supreme Court should be very careful with this, because our jurisprudence is still growing, because the Fourth Republic is just 24 years. So we're still trying to fine-tune some of these rough edges. But it needs to be stated that that issue of eligibility, it has to be really defined by the National Assembly. It cannot be left only to the courts to determine. Otherwise, you find out that people will be robbed of their well-deserved victories. And that will now mean that the judiciary is, with due respect, is helping to unwittingly subvert democracy, which, of course, is not the intent of the judiciary. So definitely you cannot just leave it hanging. The appeal court in this case ruled this way, the Supreme Court ruled this way, the tribunal ruled this way. The National Assembly, I think, needs to urgently look at some of those things.
But the law is clear. It's the politician that is the problem here. The law is clear that you must submit your party register. Why would the NNPP wait until the 6th of July after the election before submitting? Were they not thinking that a party could try to exploit that?
No, but my question is that should the candidate then suffer for the inefficiency of the party that nominated?
No, I'm just asking. The good thing is that this is not the only issue.
Yes.
For me, the bigger issue is those unsigned and unstamped ballots. Yeah. I'm not so bothered about this one because I've seen the Supreme Court rule on this matter that this is not litigatable at the level of the tribunal. It's a pre-election matter. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of Peter Obi. This same kind of issue cropped up when they argued that, oh, he was not a member of the Labour Party. But the Supreme Court ruled in it dismissed the matter, if we still remember. So, but the bigger elephant in the room is the 160,000 ballots. What do we do about that? How come the ballots were not signed? Who is culpable for that? Is it INEC that is culpable for that? Or some politicians just sat down somewhere and were just thumbprinting and after thumbprinting?
That's what I'm saying.
Because if the court had not allowed APC to go and check ballots, we would never have discovered that some ballots were not signed. How do you explain ballots not signed, not stamped? I mean,
okay. Now,
so that for me would be the big issue. The Supreme Court had ruled on this matter before, and I don't think that they have a history of going against their own previous judgment, because this happened just recently now. The APC as well as the Supreme Court both had ruled on the matter of eligibility and all that in favor of Peter Obi. So if it's similar to this, as we can see, then it looks like the outcome could be really predictable on that matter. But there's the bigger issue, which is those ballots.
But that also raises the question of this margin of lead principle. Since that Kogi election in 2015, after Abubakar died, I mean, during which Abubakar died, you see, this margin of lead principle, which is in INEC's guidelines, it's not in the Electoral Act, it's not in the Constitution. It has been, it has been a kind of topsy-turvy. Yeah, no,
it's not a margin of lead.
The margin of lead is in the Zamfara case, but what I'm saying is...
No, we are not talking about Zamfara yet. You seem eager to go to this Zamfara. This one, they said, okay, since they are not stamped, then they are not valid ballots. That was the argument. And then they deducted those invalid ballots, enabling APC to overtake, because 166,000 is a lot of ballots.
Let's quickly move to Zamfara State. The tribunal has ordered, the court has ordered that a kind of round should be held in 3 local governments. What is the implication of this?
It is that's what makes the matter potentially very, very tantalizing. INEC has been ordered to hold fresh elections in 3 local governments, and the court nullified Dawda Lawan's return. It told them to conduct fresh elections in 3 local governments where results from polling units were not counted or where elections did not take place. So we look at Maradun, which is the former governor's local government. APC argued that the genuine result was not recorded. You get the argument that it was the returning officer who, do you know that the returning officer testified against INEC? That look, the real result was not accepted. And he said the real result was set aside by the REC. That was his argument. I think the court was convinced. One, REC has no power to overrule the outcome of an election. That law was done in such a way that RECs in states, they are permanent in nature. So they fraternize a lot with politicians. But when they bring these arrows, it could be electoral. It's not even known to the voting community in that area. It's not known to the politicians. So they believe that RO will be much more even-handed, will be much more objective than the REC who had been there and could have been influenced. So the law does not permit REC to say, okay, this result here, I cancel. This is what should happen. So that RO went and testified against INEC that was not his result. So the court then said, okay, the result for Maradun invalidated, go and do a fresh election there. That's the peculiar case for Maradun.
What are we looking at here?
Maradun, I was looking at Maradun has no less than 90,000 registered voters.
Wow.
if he gets overwhelming votes from Maradun, and then Brene Magaji, there are about 45,000 registered voters in 82 polling units across 4 wards. So look at the figure, 45K here, more than 90,000 here. It is by far then, before we even go to Bukuyum, Bukuyum is just along the border with Kebbi and Niger. I think about 3, just a few polling units. But Maradun is the key, because the votes from Maradun alone, if they come out in numbers, can can get Matawale to overtake the governor. You know, the votes from Maradun are higher than the margin of victory, and we are not talking about Brene Magaji yet. We are not talking about Bukuyum yet. You know, because Brene Magaji is all 4 wards. What happened in that election, I suspect that some people interfered in INEC's work, because the argument was, how you stop election from holding in some places, whereas you conducted elections there during the presidential election. But this one, you just told the returning officer, we are not going to have election here this time around. We can't have, and when people say, oh, why are the courts intervening? They fail to realize that there are some terrible things that compromised INEC staff can do that can rubbish the process. And if you don't have the court to say, oh, INEC was wrong here, INEC should have allowed this to happen and all that. How do we? That means the injustice will just the injustice will be fait accompli.
Emeka, Zamfara, now looking at this trend now, and 3 local governments, I'm sure they might want to take it to the Supreme Court and want to see what the Supreme Court will.
Yeah, just like should the actions or inactions of INEC staff be used to quote unquote rob a candidate of his or her victory? This I'm talking about the margin of lead principle that was just used to declare the result of the election. But you have cancelled votes or areas where elections were not held. Despite that, you still went ahead and declared a winner in the election. So,
are you talking about the Kogi thing?
Yeah, it has continued.
Because INEC gave the returning officer.
Yes, it has continued like that. It has become a trend, and that has raised the argument whether this margin of lead principle that is in INEC's guidelines, does it supersede the electoral? I mean, it's not in the Electoral Act. It's not in the Constitution. So why should INEC
officials? If it's not mathematically possible to overtake.
No, that's what I'm saying. That in Zamfara, why was a winner declared when you had all these votes that were not in contention? Why was a winner declared when you didn't have these votes in contention?
No, because the winner was declared because INEC sat down and released results for a local government, and the returning officer said, no, that result was not my result.
Yeah, so
it could have happened
using the margin of lead principle.
It could have happened in Adamawa, if not for the vigilance, especially of journalists.
Using the margin of lead principle.
You said they should come back at 11 o'clock. By 9 o'clock, the rec, compromised rec for that matter, then came forward and said, this is the person who has won the election.
That's why we need serious
Are you the
reforms.
No, the thing is you see, whatever reforms you have, Emeka,
the human beings,
these individuals, no one can argue that against the fact that there are people compromised in INEC. Whether in their IT team or other teams, who connive with politicians. When I say the politician is the problem, I know what I'm saying. They connive with the politician to give advantage to the wrong person. So that wrong person gets declared winner. You expect the court to do justice. Yeah. You see, we can't say, oh, he's been declared winner, then the matter should not be looked at again. That is, somebody went before the tribunal to argue that no, that was not the result.
That's what I'm saying. We're saying the same thing, definitely.
What, did they not jail the lecturer the other day in Akwa Ibom when he connived with politicians to bring a result that was not the product of the election? So the election litigation will not stop in our country, because if you cheat me, Whether you've been allowed to win or not, whether you've been declared winner or not, if you cheat me, I will go to court
Yes,
now.
the court has actually remedied this.
It's not in our country alone that people go to court. Hearing all this argument, including senior lawyers saying that courts should not determine outcome of election. When people will not follow the laid down procedure,
INEC should do the right
did the
thing.
courts not decide in Al Gore versus George W. Bush?
Okay.
Was it not the court that decided? I mean, so this is the thing. If INEC, there are some things that INEC does that revolts against reasonableness. I mean, revolts against reason. People have the obligation to go to the court and say, look, INEC connive with my enemy or my opponent and had me
Gave me the advantage.
At that point, the court will step in.
All right, and finally, touch not my anointed is what the Holy Book says, but bandits appear not to care. A clergyman with the evangelical church winning all, Pastor David Musa has been killed by his abductors after collecting 1 million naira in Kogi State. The late Pastor Musa, who was abducted on Saturday, the 11th of November, in Obajana, under the Lokoja local government area of the state, was killed on Tuesday. This is serious.
It's not...
after paying 1 million.
Yes, they are fond of doing that. You collect ransom from you and still go ahead and take your life. Which has happened so many times, and I just wonder why people are this wicked. He was abducted on 11 November, and then killed on 14 November. So a member of the church, identified as Mary, said the pastor went to his farm that ugly day. It was then that his wife and church member discovered that the pastor had been kidnapped. The abductors got in touch with the family, demanding 20 million. Since the church could not raise the entire money, they pleaded with the kidnappers to reduce the ransom. Then they insisted that they will bring the money. The church should just come along with recharge cards, chicken, and many alcoholic drinks for their consumption. You imagine kidnappers telling people, when you are coming, bring chicken.
They can't come out to go and buy.
Yes, even Boko Haram too. You know, Boko Haram beg people to help them buy Maggi and all of these things that they used to cook.
And fuel in the Okada.
And fuel. So they'll give to them. It is when they pay hefty money because they know they can't go out and get those things. So it's the same attitude that abductors have. After all, some of them were originally Boko Haram members. So the church members were sent to deliver the money and the items. The abductors instructed them and the pastor to start going home. Unfortunately, they asked the pastor to come back. And when he was going to them, they shot him and he died on the spot. After collecting the
ransom.
In September 2023, a medical doctor, Nogamnana, yes, in Liberia land, was similarly killed. In July 2023, gunmen kidnapped 3 family members at Ganaja, in Ajakuta local government. And this was the same way that they just waste people. So it's unfortunate that they continue to target church leaders because they believe that when they kidnap church leaders, church members will pull resources together and then pay hefty ransom. In this case, they were disappointed that they didn't get so much. But I can tell you, when they kidnapped the leader of the Methodist Church the other day,
yes, they got 120.
They got a lot of money. A lot of money. So they continue to target church leaders.
Omega, it's something that they've seen that, look, they always pay this ransom, especially churches, that they always raise money for this ransom, that after all they collect offerings.
Well, we must just state it clearly. Churches are not businesses. Churches are charities. And so it's unfortunate that we've had situations where some clergymen tried to make the ministry look like it's a money-spinning venture, and that has drawn the wrong kinds of responses. Criminals trying to cash in on it. You remember, was it Pastor Johnson Suleiman in Auchi the other day? His convoy was attacked. 7 people were killed. So you look at all these things here and there. The other time, Boko Haram kidnapped, I think, an official of the Christian Association of Nigeria and killed him. So all of these things, I think government needs to. The National Security Advisor, Malam Nur Ribadu, the other day said that kidnapping remains a serious problem that government is trying to find a solution to. I think government must deal with this in headlong. You should not just be looking at, because these people are just mainly loose bands. A lot of them are loose bands of criminals who just move around, picking people here and there. This one is a prominent case because it's a man of God. But there are people too, here and there, who are not really prominent. There was a time some teachers too were kidnapped in, I think, one of the states or so in the southwest, I think. So these things, government needs to clamp down on the people in this state. And it's not difficult to track them, to track their locations, to track their source of funding, to track how they move around. It's not difficult, because when you listen to narrations by victims, it's easy to cross these people, get them arrested. But I think certain things, the security architecture needs to, they need to join fingers. They need to link their fingers to make sure that these things are seriously dealt with. I know in Kogi State, for instance, Governor Yahya Bello tried very well, did his best, to deal with this issue of kidnapping. Yes. But criminals will never, they won't relent. They won't relent. So now that he's
even his own chief of staff, yes, kidnapped the mother.
Now that he's finishing
up to 2 years now, if not.
Now that he's finishing he's finishing in January, I think he needs to.
His own chief of staff.
He needs to sustain that. He needs to sustain that fight and encourage his successor that this is one major area you must deal with ruthlessly.
Now, joining us via Zoom for more discussion on this is Deputy Archbishop of the Ministry of Repentance and Holiness, Emma Udom. Thank you, Emma Udom. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
All right.
All of you there in the studio. Good afternoon. Yeah.
Now, how do you believe the church can actively contribute to nation building, and what specific initiatives or programs do you think are essential for fostering a better society?
Thank you very much for having me. The church actually has great capacity and has a lot to offer in nation building. And I know that the tenets of the Bible, if adhered to, really can transform any nation, any community. The Bible teaches us humility, sincerity, truth, loving God, loving our neighbors. And I think that perhaps these have been considered a bit fundamental and perhaps overlooked. But these are the fundamentals that we have to go back to. When you talk about initiatives or programs, there are so many initiatives and so many programs, not only in Nigeria, globally, to address things that have to do with the nation, ills, things that need to be corrected. Our view as a church is that we need to go back home and really do our homework. About half of the population of Nigeria are Christians. And so if we go back and churn out disciples that actually reflect the tenets of the Bible, the ideals of the Bible, I think this, more than any specific program or initiative, would transform the nation, our families, our communities, schools, and everything. We need to just live the Bible. And I think that will be the biggest contribution that the church can make to nation building. We have a lot of work to do.
In your opinion, what role does the church play in addressing social issues such as poverty, education, and healthcare within the community, and how can this effort be scaled for broader impacts?
I mean, dealing with poverty and education are things that are very, very, very critical, because these are things that we live, these are our bread and butter issues. These are things that we deal with. Everybody deals with this. Every family, every community deals with it. So it is actually very important. But I think to address that, you have to take a step back and say, what has been the reason for why we have this collapse in the health sector, why the economy is bad, why do we have poverty? And you see that Nigeria, being such a black, actually, we all know what our issue is. It is corruption. It is the misuse. So we feel and we believe that if indeed all of us that are Christians, we the Christians, begin to really live our public life, live our life in office, in schools, where we work, in those government offices where we sit at our desk to work, if we apply the fear of God in how we dispense our work, then the corruption will go away. And then you will begin to have solution to things like healthcare and poverty. You know, those things don't even happen to us. There is a reason for why we have those issues. And until we address the fundamental reasons for why we have those issues, we're just trying to trim the tree at the top and the root is still there. So we feel that we just really, as the church, we are not government, we are the church. And people in government sit in our churches. We need to encourage ourselves to do what is right, no matter where we find ourselves, no matter what level, and no matter where we are positioned. If we do our best there and fear God and love our neighbor and not treat our neighbors of what belongs to them, then I feel like it would not take long at all. The impact of the church will be more greatly felt, and we would all be the happier for it. We will begin to see the nation, because light begets light. We will influence, and that positivity will spread, really.
Now, how does your church engage with local community to promote unity, tolerance, and understanding, especially in a diverse society like Nigeria?
The Bible, which is of course our manual, so you can forgive me if I keep referring to it, but that is really what we have. Promotes love and promotes peaceful coexistence. Love is what we need to apply to bring change. Yes, we are diverse. We have multiple ethnic groups, and we can all live together in peace if we love our neighbor as ourselves. That is what the Bible teaches. And the only thing I would say is that, you know, in these days when things are getting tough, which actually is Bible prophecy, you know, you might want to interest your listeners that, we say this, and the Christians know this, that Jesus, the Messiah, is coming back soon. And the Bible prophesies that towards that time, things are going to get more difficult. When things get difficult, when things get more difficult, people become more selfish. It's like some kind of, I don't know, intuition or reflexes. So for us to be able to counter that, we must show love in practical ways. You know, we must reach out. We must serve the poor. You know, food programs. You know, in our local churches, we cook hot meals for people every Sunday, for instance. We go out, we share the love of God. We are kind to each other. More than what the church can preach, I think these practical things are really what will show and influence and create about a better society where people live in peace, because they happen to know that they have each other's back. And I think that is one of the things that would help. You know, also helping out where we can. In schools, we work with the police, we work with the prisons. We try to go to the least in our society to try to build them up and to help them to see that God loves them, that they are not, you know, second-class citizens, and that they have a role to play. And by doing this, we believe that we will build our people up and give them a better position, a better place, you know, a hope that they can actually influence and do, you know, make that contribution to society. And if I can just the conversation just before I came on air about the issue of the kidnap of the pastor and unfortunate murder. It's such a sad thing to hear about his family and his church and show, you know, what we are dealing in Nigeria. It's not only in Nigeria. People are hopeless. People are hopeless. And when a man is hopeless and feels like he has nothing to lose, then anything goes. And so again, we, the church, we have a lot of know that we have the capacity. And I just hope and pray that we will all come together and do that work. What is that work? To put back hope that when we live this life, there's another life to live. That one is for eternity. And we need to prepare for that. You know, and when people have hope again, then they'll care about not only themselves, but about their neighbors. You know, there's nothing as terrible or as frightening as dealing with a man who has no hope, who feels like he has nothing to lose. That is a terrible place to be. And we must work at bringing people out from that place. Because unless we deal with that, you know, we may find that these things continue and increase. Government has their role to play, you know. Talk about security, insecurity, government apparatives doing what they can, but we, the church, must be able to work to bring back hope to the hopeless.
Now, can you share examples of successful collaborations between the church and government or other organizations that have positively impacted the well-being of the community and contributed to the nation building,
Well, we sensitize people wherever we go. You know, we are a church, we are not government. So what we do is to try to bring positive influence. We bring sensitization to our flock. We bring sensitizations to the general public. We go on the radio, we come on TV like we are doing now, and we preach the gospel of Jesus, which if we really live by it, then we will have no issues. So we tell people that not only must we be Christians, we must be real Christians. We must be, I mean, we have 80 million Christians in Nigeria. If Christians were to really live that life for Christ that the Bible shows us, then I think we would have really, really done a fantastic job. So the church, we must continue to teach people, show them what is wrong, show them what is right, you know, show them how to love their neighbor. I keep coming back to love because you cannot change anything unless love is applied. People cannot change unless they are loved. And so we need to do that more and more and more. Repentance is key. When you do something wrong, you turn away from that thing and do it in the way that you are supposed to do. And by so doing, little by little by little, the influence of the church will be felt. The impact of the church will be felt. So all the people that you're talking about in nation building, the people in the National Assembly, half are Christians, they sit in churches, you know? And so if we influence them there, then they can go back out to government buildings where they work and shine the light of God there and be effective in their work and be able to bring, I mean, people like Joseph in the Bible, Daniel in the Bible, they were just one or two people. Joseph was alone. Yet the Lord knew.
I think we last emailed on there. Jude, so at the end of this thing, because I don't know, how do we discourage churches, as in from being like they're like endangered species in the hands of these bandits?
Yes, because the situation is not helped even by the way some church leaders throw money around and show that.
Yeah, I remember
so much money. When we were
one was celebrating the birthday of his wife and told her to go to a safe, and she picked up 55 million naira cash.
And these are not their money.
55 million naira
cash.
Money
contributed.
Open that safe.
Some of it is even audio money.
You know,
just to deceive members.
You know, the money, the money they spend is from the congregation now. You go to church, you pay your tithes. You do this, you pay. At the end of the day, it's like the head of a business empire.
Yeah.
And he has the final say.
Who is not accountable to anybody.
He's not accountable, you can't ask him questions. If you want to ask him questions, you will be excommunicated from the church. And then you can't ask him questions. So he has access to the church till. He can spend the money the way he likes. So people have seen Why are they not kidnapping Muslim clerics like that? I'm not saying they don't kidnap them, but they are targeting church leaders because they think there's so much money.
Yeah.
Now, if they kidnap them, they are going to bring a lot of money. They kidnap students because they think government will come up with the ransom. Government can't watch students suffer. So they know, they have reasons for when they kidnap students, they know it will attract front page news and pressure will be brought on government to do a deal with them, and then they will pay money. People like Dogo Gide and the rest of them, that is what
How they get their own.
The Dogo Gide of a person even force them to replace money that ants, termites ate, money that he kept in the bush that termites ate. He insisted that they should replace the money before he released his last set of students of FGC.
What infantry?
In Kebbi State. I mean, it's, we have to defeat banditry. We have no choice. We have no choice.
But also church leaders should be also more responsible.
Yes.
And then members of churches where pastors are not preaching, you know, what is in the Bible, holiness, repentance, righteousness, they should also leave. Don't just stay there and you allow someone fleece you of your own money, you know, promise you miracles and all kinds of things. And
turn themselves to politicians.
And yes, and they attract all kinds of politicians. You know,
swearing at people voting against.
You leave such places. Leave such places because you see, it's about.
As a pastor, I must vote for your preferred candidate. Whereas in the church, there are people.
It's an individual. Yes, a personal affair. Salvation is a personal affair. So, and then church leaders should be more responsible. Then the Financial Reporting Council should help Nigerians. If pastors are, you know, feel that they are above the censure of their members, the Financial Reporting Council, the big men of God in Nigeria who actually stopped that council from doing the job, the federal government should help the Financial Reporting Council to do its job, so that nobody is above the law. Nobody is above the law. That's why you see people,
above the law, no matter who you think you are.
Telling you that there are miracle alerts and some of these things. Come on, let us try to be responsible, build a society of responsible citizens.
We have to leave it there. I want to thank you, Ime Udom. I want to thank you for contributing, joining us on Journalist Hangout. Our time is fast spent. We'd have loved to continue.
We'll certainly bring you back.
Definitely.
So that we can talk a lot more about how we can achieve a better nation. I'm sure that is something that you are passionate about. The way you speak, the evidence is there. So we'll certainly bring you back, ma, you know.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Emeka,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for this edition. And that's our offering on Journalist Hangouts on Sunday. Join us tomorrow for the regular episode of the program at 5 p.m. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11:30 p.m. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Ozubaku. See you tomorrow.
Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Honey, what time did this happen? We will be right there.
At TVC News, we follow the big and major news, gathering the facts, witnessing the outcome.
I am here live at the aftermath of the approval of the new national minimum wage.
We are TV Station of the Year, not just